Every day is a blank page, a new opportunity, and how that page begins sets the tone for everything that follows. For many women, the first moments after waking up can feel like a flood of responsibilities, emotions, or even self-doubt. In that fragile window of transition between sleep and a fully active mind, a single well-crafted good morning message can create a shift, a moment of pause, of appreciation, of emotional grounding. That's why emotional connection, especially first thing in the morning, is not just a romantic gesture. It's a deeply meaningful act of care and presence. When you send a good morning message that speaks to her heart, you are essentially telling her, before the world could reach you, I wanted to. That kind of emotional presence is not lost on a woman who values emotional security. It touches a part of her that seeks connection, not surface-level conversation, but a resonance that echoes through the rest of her day. You're not just saying good morning, you're saying, I'm thinking of you. I care about how your day begins. I care about your mental and emotional state, even before the world expects anything from you. There's a reason women remember certain texts long after the relationship has ended. They remember if someone acknowledged their strength, their softness, their spirit. A powerful good morning message doesn't have to be poetic or long. It has to be intentional. It can be as simple as, I hope today treats you kindly the way you deserve, or woke up grateful to have you on my mind. Those words don't just land in her inbox, they land in her heart, and over time they become part of the emotional blueprint she associates with you. Most people underestimate the value of the small, consistent emotional gestures. They think grand declarations or gifts are what create deep bonds. But the truth is, emotional connection is often built through repetition, daily reminders of presence, support, admiration, and empathy. That's why the first message of the day can become the most powerful. It's a moment when she hasn't yet been flooded by demands, distractions, or insecurities. When your words meet her in that quiet space, they often echo louder than they would later in the day. There's also a science behind this. The first moments of the day are when the mind is still in a theta state, a relaxed, dreamy consciousness that's open to suggestion and impression. Sending a message that affirms her value, calms her heart, or lifts her mood at that time, it becomes more than communication. It becomes emotional program. She may not consciously realize how powerful it is, but over time, her brain starts to associate your presence with peace, warmth, and emotional stability. And let's not forget the impact of surprise. Many women don't expect depth or emotional presence from morning texts. The average message is a simple GM or good morning, babe. But when you go beyond that, when you reflect on something she said yesterday, mention something she's worried about, or tie in a quote or affirmation you know she needs, it elevates you. It makes you unforgettable. Not because you're trying to impress her, but because you're choosing to connect in a world that often forgets how valuable connection is. Maybe she's going through something heavy, grief, stress, career uncertainty, or family challenges. Maybe she hides it well. But if your good morning message consistently brings her calm and support, you're creating a safe space without asking for anything in return. That's what makes it powerful. You're not demanding her attention, you're offering your energy. And most women know how rare that is. It's also important to realize this. The way you start her morning can influence the way she interacts with the rest of her world. When someone feels seen, loved, and valued early in the day, they carry that with them. They respond to challenges with more resilience. They face doubt with more grace. Your words, sent with sincerity, can become a silent ally walking beside her through the chaos of life. And sometimes that's more valuable than any gift or romantic gesture. People think love needs to be loud. But sometimes love is silent and subtle. It's a text at 6:45 a.m. reminding her to drink water. It's a message saying, I know today's important for you. Just wanted to say I believe in you. It's a quote that matches her struggle. A prayer sent without asking. A meme that makes her laugh. A compliment that sees her soul, not just her beauty. These moments might seem small, but they're the building blocks of trust, intimacy, and emotional bonding. In a world filled with noise, when you become her first soft voice of the day, one that brings peace, light, or strength, you become irreplaceable. Not because you're perfect, but because you're present. And presence, especially consistent emotional presence, is what every woman remembers. It's not about impressing her. It's about understanding her emotional rhythm and choosing to show up for her in it. So when you think about sending a good morning message, don't ask what sounds sweet. Ask what will help her feel seen. Because when you do that, you're not just sending words, you're sending energy. And no woman ever forgets the man who began her day with love, presence, and purpose. She may not say it aloud every time, but trust that her heart notices, her soul stores it. And that connection, built word by word, day by day, becomes something no one else can easily replace. Not all good morning messages are created equal. Some simply exist to check a box, to say, I sent something. But others, the ones that truly linger in a woman's heart, are the ones that reflect emotional depth and intentionality. These aren't just words tossed into a text thread. They are moments of real connection designed to speak to who she is, not just what she's doing. The second key point centers on this. Personalization and intentionality in your good morning messages can make them unforgettable. It's not about sending a message for the sake of sending it. It's about saying something that only you could say, because only you see her in the way you do. When a woman receives a message that sounds generic, her mind registers it, but her heart doesn't respond. It feels routine, recycled, possibly even copy-pasted. But when a message is clearly rooted in something unique about her, it creates emotional gravity. Maybe it references a conversation you had the night before, a goal she mentioned, a struggle she's facing, or simply an inside joke that only the two of you share. That type of message says, I'm not just texting you. I'm thinking of you specifically. I'm present with you, even from afar. Let's break this down. Imagine a woman receives a message that says, Good morning, beautiful. Nice, right? Sweet. But now compare that to, Good morning, my calm in chaos. I hope today gives you exactly the peace you've been needing. The first message could come from anyone. The second one, that came from someone who's been listening, who sees her inner world, and who knows how to respond to it with love. Personalization shows that you're paying attention. And in a time when distractions are everywhere and people are used to surface-level conversations, your ability to reflect her reality back to her is powerful. It shows emotional intelligence, it shows care, and it builds intimacy without pressure. That's the real secret. Intentional words feel safe, they feel nourishing, and they naturally pull her closer, not because you're asking for anything, but because you're offering something that's rare. Your emotional awareness. There's another element here too, timing. When you personalize your messages, the timing of them becomes more impactful. If she's got a presentation today, your message could say, I hope you walk into that meeting like the force of nature you are. You've got this. If she's been feeling low, your message could say, just a reminder, you've survived harder days than this, and I'm proud of you. These words don't have to be long. They have to be honest. They have to reflect that you see her, not just her name on your contact list. And don't think it has to be deep and serious every time. Intentionality can also show up in humor, playfulness, or lightness. Maybe it's a meme that relates to her morning coffee addiction. Maybe it's a voice note of you saying something silly just to make her laugh. Maybe it's a photo of a sunrise with a message like, this made me think of your energy, quiet but powerful. These aren't random, they're thoughtful. And that's what makes the difference. Now, you might ask, isn't this a lot of effort every morning? But here's the truth. Anything that creates emotional connection consistently is worth the investment. These aren't grand gestures that require hours. These are seconds that come from a mindset of care. When you love or deeply respect someone, you want to bring them ease. You want to remind them of who they are. You want to be part of the reason they smile before the world even gets a chance to affect them. And here's the beautiful part. She doesn't forget. She might not respond with a dramatic reply every time, but your consistency becomes her comfort. When a woman feels safe in your emotional presence, she builds trust. And trust is the foundation of every powerful connection. So when you take the time to personalize your good morning messages, you're not just connecting in the moment, you're deepening a bond that grows stronger each day. Too often, people wait until something's wrong to show depth. They wait until a breakup, an argument, or a moment of crisis to suddenly speak from the heart. But what if you could build that emotional bank every single day? What if you could become the kind of person whose words were a source of daily strength, reflection, or lightness for someone else? That's not just love, that's leadership in relationships, that's emotional maturity, that's legacy building communication. And remember, personalization doesn't mean performance. You're not writing poetry unless that's your thing. You're simply speaking to her, not just at her. And that shift in energy is what sets your message apart from the thousands of notifications she sees on her screen. Your words become a break in the noise, not part of it. So don't underestimate the power of a few tailored words sent with honesty and awareness. In a world that moves fast and connects shallowly, your personalized message can feel like stillness, like truth, like home. That's something no woman forgets. Not today, not tomorrow, not even years down the line. She may read it in seconds, but it may stay in her heart all day. And sometimes that's exactly what she needs to feel, a little more seen, a little more grounded, and a lot more loved. Sometimes the most powerful words are not the ones that shout with intensity, but those that whisper directly to the heart. When you send a good morning message that communicates respect, emotional depth, and genuine admiration for a woman's mind, her strength, and her inner beauty, not just her outer appearance, you leave a lasting imprint. This third key point emphasizes the importance of communicating deep emotional value and intentional validation in the simplest daily gesture, a morning message. It's easy to fall into the pattern of using surface-level compliments. Telling someone they're beautiful is kind, but it barely scratches the surface of what it means to truly see someone. Emotional depth comes from acknowledging the things about a woman that the world often overlooks or takes for granted. It means appreciating the way she handles pressure, how she supports those around her, how she maintains grace through pain, or how she continues to rise despite the weight she carries. When you begin your day by recognizing and honoring these inner strengths, your message becomes something she doesn't just read but feels. A woman who is seen for more than her looks feels safe with you. And safety is foundational in emotional connection. Telling her, "Good morning, I hope today treats you with the same kindness you show others," or "You're the kind of woman who makes hard things look easy, and that's not lost on me," gives her more than momentary confidence. It affirms her essence. These are the kinds of messages that stay with her throughout her day, not because they flatter her ego, but because they feed her soul. It's important to realize that many women move through the world in silence, carrying invisible burdens. They are praised for their accomplishments, but rarely acknowledged for their quiet endurance. Your message, if delivered with emotional intelligence, can be a sacred space where she doesn't have to be strong or perform. She can just be, and she can be reminded that who she is, not what she does, is enough. That kind of affirmation is rare. When your words deliver it, you become someone she associates with peace and emotional renewal. There is also great strength in simplicity. You don't need to craft a speech or write a novel. In fact, the most powerful good morning messages are often the briefest. But in those few lines, there is truth. There is recognition. You don't need to remind her of your love directly. Your emotional presence does that for you. You're offering her clarity in a world that constantly demands she multitask her identity. You're reminding her subtly but powerfully that she is deeply valued. When a woman feels emotionally nourished by someone's words, she doesn't just think of that person fondly. She feels anchored to them. You create a rhythm, a quiet emotional ritual that builds intimacy through repetition. Your message becomes a part of her morning routine, not because it's routine, but because it feels like alignment. Like someone else in the world sees what she often has to carry alone. That's not just attraction, that's spiritual connection, and it works both ways. The more emotionally grounded your messages become, the more connected you become to your own depth. You start to pay more attention to her energy, her expressions, her patterns, her joys, and her fatigue. You grow your empathy. Your ability to send emotionally deep messages isn't just for her. It transforms you. You become more present, more attentive, and more aware of how your words create impact. A woman who feels emotionally safe with you, who feels deeply seen, doesn't need constant grand gestures. She cherishes the moments that affirm her identity. Your morning message isn't just a greeting, it's a mirror. It tells her, "This is how I see you. This is how I honor you. And when it comes consistently from a space of love, presence, and depth, it becomes one of the most powerful forces of connection in her life. Some men use words to fill silence. Others use them to avoid confrontation. But the rarest ones, those who build emotional intimacy, use words to hold space for truth. When you make your message a space where a woman can feel known without having to explain herself, you become a safe harbor in her storm. That emotional impact will always be stronger than physical attraction alone. She may never say it directly, but over time your message becomes a part of her mental sanctuary. It might be the one kind word she needed on a rough day. It might be the reminder that helped her keep going. It might be the small moment that opened her heart to love again. And it all started with a message rooted in emotional depth, not convenience. So never underestimate the weight of your words. You're not just texting, you're planting seeds, seeds of connection, affirmation, healing, and growth. Every time you choose to send something meaningful instead of something forgettable, you remind her that she matters, not just to the world but to you, and that simple act of presence, that daily acknowledgement of who she truly is, may just change the way she sees herself forever. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all. This fourth point is about restraint, about choosing silence over impulsive reaction, about giving space instead of chasing clarity, and about learning to trust that absence, too, can be a form of presence. In relationships, especially romantic ones, the instinct to respond, explain, defend, or fix can feel overwhelming. But there are moments when silence is not weakness. It's a conscious decision to prioritize your peace, to maintain your dignity, and to let someone else sit with the weight of their choices. When a woman has been accustomed to being chased after pulling away, your silence interrupts the pattern. It tells her that you are not dependent on her response to validate your worth. You are not desperate to be understood. You are not controlled by emotion, but anchored in self-respect. This shift in behavior can be jarring, even unsettling, to someone who's used to having emotional power through withdrawal. And that's the point. Not to hurt, not to manipulate, but to silently express that your love does not come at the cost of your self-worth. Remaining silent is often seen as passive, but in truth it requires an extraordinary amount of strength. It demands emotional discipline to sit with your discomfort, to resist the urge to defend your perspective or seek closure, and to let someone else come to their own realization. It's trusting that clarity doesn't always come from confrontation. It often arrives in solitude, in reflection, in absence. By stepping back and staying silent, you allow space for the truth to breathe. You give her the gift of missing you, not in a superficial way, but in a deeply introspective sense. She may begin to reflect on your conversations, your presence, your consistency. In your silence, she'll hear the echo of all the things you didn't force her to understand. And sometimes, that echo is louder than any argument. It's in that silence where understanding begins to form, not just about you, but about herself and what your presence actually meant in her life. Most people are afraid of silence because it reveals the truth. When you're quiet, when you don't plead or chase or try to fix things, the other person is left alone with their conscience. The noise fades, and what remains is the reality of their actions, their choices, and the consequences that come with them. Your silence can create a mirror, a place where they are forced to see their own reflection without your voice there to blur the image. It can be the most powerful awakening someone experiences. Silence is not absence, it's presence in its most grounded form. It says, I'm here, but I'm not begging. I care, but I'm not chasing. I have love, but I won't abandon myself to prove it. That level of detachment, not from emotion but from ego, is what separates people who are emotionally mature from those who are emotionally reactive. And when you respond with silence, you're communicating that your emotional well-being does not hinge on anyone else's ability to recognize your value. Letting your silence do the talking is not about playing games. It's about holding space. You are not closing the door, you're simply not forcing it open. You are letting someone else decide what they want to do with that door, and you're doing it with grace, not spite. There's a difference. When someone expects you to respond and you don't, they are left to wonder. In that wondering, they often discover more than they would have in any argument or exchange. They start to feel the space you used to fill, and they begin to realize that your energy was not just a presence, it was a gift. Sometimes silence is the only language a broken connection can understand. If you've tried words and they've fallen flat, if you've expressed yourself and it hasn't been received, then it's no longer your job to keep explaining. You can't teach someone to value you through repetition. You teach them through absence, through letting them feel the difference between having your presence and losing it. And when that moment arrives, your silence becomes your strength. You also protect your peace through silence. You give yourself the time to think clearly, to detach emotionally, to reflect without being influenced by reaction. You allow your own healing to begin without reopening wounds that didn't need to be touched again. Sometimes speaking too soon can ruin the growth that silence was building. There's a time to talk, and there's a time to let your stillness speak louder than words ever could. This is how you honor yourself while still caring deeply for someone else. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to chase to be chosen. You don't need to explain to be valid. Your silence holds weight, it carries truth, and it teaches lessons no speech ever could. So if she reaches out after a period of silence, remember this. How you choose to respond says more about your growth than your words ever could. You are not trying to hurt her. You're simply holding space for yourself, for your clarity, your peace, and your power. Let your silence create a moment where realization can bloom. And when the time comes, respond only from that place of inner stillness. Not emotion, not ego, just truth. That is where transformation happens. That is where healing begins.